As the polls continue to narrow between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, one of the questions on everybody's minds is, did Donald Trump make a mistake in picking JD Vance as his running mate? I have some really interesting videos and some leaks that just came out. Some of them might kind of denote, yeah, it was a mistake. No, I'll kind of give my analysis. The first one is this though. JD Vance recently destroyed Kamala Harris at a rally where he essentially responded to her calling him disloyal to the country. Here's that video.
Now, I saw the other day Kamala Harris question my loyalty to this country. That's the word she used, loyalty. And it's an interesting word, simplify, loyalty, because there is no greater sign of disloyalty to this country than what Kamala Harris has done at our southern border. And I'd like to ask the Vice President, what has she done to question my loyalty to this country? I served in the United States Marine Corps. I went to Iraq for this country. I built a business for this country. And my running mate took a bullet for this country. So my question to Kamala Harris is, what the hell have you done to question our loyalty to the United States of America?
So really good stuff from JD Vance. There is this campaign going on right now from the left. If you haven't heard it, it's kind of ludicrous, saying that Trump and Vance, or all Republicans really, but Trump and Vance, of course, because they're kind of heading the GOP right now, that they're weird. And the thing is, Trump is weird. I'll give him that. You know, he's got the grandpa jokes. He says kind of weird things. I think that's kind of a lot of the comedy and the charm with him personally. But Vance is a very normal dude. And you can see just from that clip, he's very there. Like, he's speaking. He's 10 times more articulate than Kamala Harris. So there's kind of this narrative out there that he would be, you know, before Joe Biden dropped out, that he was afraid to debate Kamala Harris, or that he's afraid to debate whoever Kamala Harris makes her running mate. Believe me when I say he is not afraid to debate a Democrat. He's a very formidable debater. He's a very good speaker. There's really nothing weird about him. Ironically, though, all the people that the leftists are calling weird are those who just kind of have nuclear families and are very family-oriented. So I suppose that does track, that Democrats would think that's so weird since that's so just perpendicular to their, you know, their cult-like mentality. Whether or not, though, you think JD Vance was a good pick by Trump is irrelevant to the fact that he's a good speaker. He knows his stuff. And if he attacks Kamala in the way that he just did that, he is going to be an asset to Trump. The key is, if you're going to attack Kamala, she has such a long record as a politician, you don't even need to go to how weird she is, like her cackle and kind of the word salads that she puts out. You don't even need to go to that. Just go straight to the actual content, what she's actually done. And JD Vance is a good enough speaker where that's actually a very persuasive pitch. If he does that and he focuses on that for the next 98 days, he's going to be a good asset for Trump. My answer, though, to if JD Vance was a good pick for Donald Trump today or not, was he wasn't a bad pick, but he wasn't the best pick that it could have been. He wasn't bad because he was very competent and smart, like I just talked about. He's logical. It also makes sense that Donald Trump would want to bring in someone like JD Vance because he's fully bought in to what Trump and MAGA is presenting. But he isn't the best in terms of electability because no one knows who he is. I mean, he has been in politics for 2 years. He's a very popular politician, in Ohio. But outside of that, a lot of people don't know who he is. A more popular politician in like a purple state, such as, Ron DeSantis, Glenn Youngkin. I think those would have been better choices, or, best choices, really. That would have been best case scenario just for kind of widening the GOP's reach in 2024. But I don't think JD's bad. And I think what's interesting about JD Vance that people are kind of sleeping on, that they don't understand, is that they're kind of the biggest critique of him is that his inexperience is his weakness because he just doesn't have a lot of time in politics. But I actually think that this is one of his biggest strengths because Kamala Harris has decades and decades of history, of really bad history. Any politician at some point, right, is going to have bad things and things can be brought up with them when they've been a politician for a long time. Kamala Harris has been in politics for a long time, and she's been awful for a long time, so there's a lot of dirt that you can bring up on her. The thing is, JD Vance has such a small political history, there's not as much ammunition for the left to use on him in the same way. And so I actually think that's a really good thing for him, because what you're seeing the left do now is they're digging up kind of random things from J.D. Vance's past, which unfortunately sometimes can be a little bit effective, but I don't think it's going to be as effective as if Trump and Vance are focusing on actual things that Kamala Harris did when she was an elected politician, say in California, or as a VP under Joe Biden. However, that doesn't stop the left from still going after J.D. Vance's past. In a shocking new leak, an old friend of J.D. Vance sent emails to the New York Times between him and Vance showing how Vance has kind of changed his tune on politics, which it's not a big surprise, but seeing the emails themselves is still really interesting. I'm going to show them right here. There are 5 of them. Some of them are more interesting than others. I'll show you all of them. This one, and you can see they're dated, which I suppose is helpful just to kind of see his progression, because the most far back one was from a decade ago. So this isn't like, 40 years ago like some of these politicians will bring up, but this was a decade ago, so not long ago. The first one is just simply that they highlighted, it's just, "I hate the police." And you can see there's a little bit of context here. Again, this was given to the New York Times. The context here is after Michael Brown was killed, and obviously Obama used this to really stoke racial tension, and he said, "I hate the police." That specific thing, it's not great. It's not a great look for Trump and Vance, but at the same time, this was an age of disinformation just as it is today, and so a lot of people were kind of, even conservatives, were caught into the outrage of this happening before some of the more details came out. You could see the next email here, which was, I think, a little bit more damaging, said, well, I actually struggle with this one. I'll explain why after I read it. If you're listening, you can see it right here, but if you're listening, it says, "What seems different to me is that the Republican Party offers nothing that's as attractive as the demagogue." So on one hand, right, he is presumably kind of like the leader of the GOP after Trump, because that's just how our country works. And so on one hand, you could say that's bad, but on the other hand, I personally don't really see it as a bad thing. And the reason why is because, again, this is 2015. So you got to remember, this is before Donald Trump has become the Republican nominee. At this point, the Republican Party has lost 2 elections in a row to Obama, who did incredible damage to our country. And so you're looking at the Republican side and you're seeing kind of this uniparty, a lot of rhinos that people talk about. And is it, again, this is pre-MAGA, so this doesn't really actually hurt him, because this is kind of the same thing that Donald Trump was saying all along, which is that the Republican Party kind of sucks too, and we need to distinguish ourselves more from the Democrats if we want people to vote for us, because why would they vote for Republicans if they can just already vote for Democrats? And so I think, again, I don't really think this is that big of a deal, because I think a lot of Republicans today would be totally fine saying, oh yeah, the Republican Party on December 9th, 2015, it's not super attractive to me either. That was certainly the case for me. The next one, again, so I would say, so this one really, I'm kind of just going to skip past it. I'll flash it up on the screen right now. This just kind of is in regards to his book. It's just someone that he apologized to. It really has nothing to do with anything, so I don't think it's important. But these last 2, I think, are the most damaging. And what Trump and Vance need to really address in a very open way, which I'll talk about in a second. This is after Trump. Again, this is before Trump is elected, but after he is the presumptive nominee for the Republicans. He says, the more white people feel like voting for Trump, the more black people will suffer. That was on September 22nd. On October 4th, he says that Donald Trump is, quote, a morally reprehensible human being. So that is a problem. I mean, there's no way around it. Like that's not good for the VP to say that about the president. Now, really quick, before I talk about how Trump and Vance can use this to their advantage, I have to say as well, it is deplorable and rude to give your private emails from years ago to a major news organization. I just think that takes so little integrity. Like you just have to have no integrity to do that. I don't care if you disagree with them politically. I just think that's rude on its face. If a news outlet comes to you and asks you a question, I think that you can answer honestly. But to go out of your way to give a private email to the New York Times, I just find really dirty and nasty. And I don't care what it's about. I don't care if it's a positive thing or a negative thing. I just think just don't do that. So anyway, the person who leaked that, I think, is a garbage person. But we have them now. They're here. And so it really doesn't matter. So it brings up this question again of if Trump has made a mistake by picking J.D. Vance. Because, these emails don't look good. He spoke bad to him. The question is, though, it wasn't a secret before these leaked emails came out that J.D. Vance disagreed with Donald Trump. So the question is what is the narrative that they're going to tell about this? What I think makes J.D. an actually strong VP is that he converted to Donald Trump, to liking Trump. And again, this is the message that they need to share if they want to be perceived as a strong team. This is actually a really clever move by Trump as well, because one of the things that the left says a lot is your VP abandoned you, which is, yes, what happened with Mike Pence. And what's clever about Donald Trump is he replaced a VP that abandoned him with a VP who didn't approve of him. He didn't support him in the first place, and now he does, which is just really interesting. So the narrative that he is saying kind of in the background is, sure, there's some people who didn't stick with me, but there's far more people who have, after seeing me in action, started to support me. And I think this is a really good move. If they're open and articulate about that, Vance should come out and say what he thought Trump was and why he was wrong and supports him now. If they kind of just brush this off and they're like, no, I always liked Donald Trump, people will see through it. They see through that crap. Just be open and say, I didn't know the kind of politician Donald Trump was going to be. I thought he was this and this. Man, was I dead wrong. If he says that, in many ways, that is far more powerful than if J.D. Vance had just supported him all along. Because frankly, that's a story that resonates with a lot of us. I don't know about you, but I wasn't a super big Trump fan. I think there's a lot of people in the GOP that aren't a big Trump fan and that weren't, especially before. But then they saw the way he governed. They see the way he's running his campaign right now and the way that the left is attacking him. And suddenly, people are starting to convert more and more to him. And so if Vance says that, I think there are a lot of people, even independents, who are going to look at that and think, yeah, I mean, that sounds like me too. Hiding from the emails would be a huge mistake. The better thing is to steer into them gung-ho and use it to their advantage. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please go down below, comment, like, and subscribe, and watch another video.